What if I told you that the most feared warriors in human history were farmers, not kings, not trained soldiers, just ordinary people who grew food, raised animals, and lived quiet lives by the sea, until one day they picked up axes, got on wooden boats, and terrorized the entire world for 300 years. This is the real story of the Vikings. Scandinavia, 800 AD. Here is something nobody tells you about the Vikings. They were not born warriors. They were farmers, fishermen, and poets. They had families. They had laws. They had entire legal systems that were more advanced than most of Europe at the time. But here was their problem. The land was harsh. The winters were brutal. Crops failed. Populations grew. And the sea was everywhere. So they built something the world had never seen before. A Viking longship could cross the open ocean in a storm. It could sail up a shallow river. It could land silently on any beach in the darkness. It was fast enough to outrun any ship in the world, and shallow enough to go where no other vessel had ever gone. There was nothing else like it on Earth. It was not just a boat. It was a weapon. And in the summer of 793 AD, they used it to change history forever. Lindisfarne, June 793 AD. A small island off the coast of England, home to one of the holiest monasteries in the Christian world. The monks woke up that morning to see ships on the horizon. Then the screaming started. Here's the part that takes your breath away. The rest of Europe had no idea Vikings even existed. There was no warning, no declaration of war, no messenger, no ultimatum. Just ships, then fire, then silence. One bishop wrote, "Never before has such terror appeared in Britain. We have been reached by pagans from the sea." That letter was sent to every king in Europe, and every king in Europe felt the same thing: fear. After Lindisfarne, everything changed. Paris, Ireland, Spain, Sicily, even the rivers of Russia. For the next 100 years, no coast in Europe was safe. Kings built walls. Churches moved their gold inland. Entire villages were abandoned overnight. The mere sight of a Viking sail on the horizon was enough to empty a town. But the Vikings did not just raid and leave. They settled in Ireland, in England, in northern France, a region still called Normandy today, named after the Northmen. The Vikings. They did not just conquer land, they became part of it. But here is something nobody tells you about the Vikings. While everyone remembers the raids, the real story is much bigger. The year is 1000 AD. A Viking named Leif Erikson gets on a boat in Greenland and sails west into the complete unknown. No map, no compass, no idea what lies ahead. He reaches a coast no European has ever seen. He calls it Vinland. Today, we call it North America. 500 years before Columbus, a Viking stood on American soil and then went home and told nobody important. Think about that for a moment. The most significant geographical discovery in human history was made by a Viking farmer from Greenland, and the world simply moved on. It would take another 500 years before anyone came back. That is not just remarkable. That is one of the strangest things that has ever happened in history. From Canada to Istanbul, from Greenland to Baghdad, the Vikings were not just warriors. They were the greatest explorers and traders of the entire medieval world. They traded fur and amber for silk and silver. They sailed the rivers of Russia all the way to the Byzantine Empire, a journey of thousands of miles through unknown territory. The Byzantine emperor admired them so much, he hired Vikings as his personal bodyguards, a unit called the Varangian Guard, elite warriors from the frozen north, protecting the most powerful emperor in the world. These were not savages. This is not just a story about raids. This is a story about people who refused to stay home. Stamford Bridge, September 25, 1066. A Viking king named Harald Hardrada stands in a field in northern England with 10,000 warriors. Harald Hardrada was not just any king. He had fought in battles from Constantinople to Norway. He had served in the Varangian Guard. He had killed more men in single combat than anyone could count. He was 51 years old. He had never lost a battle in his life. The English king Harold Godwinson arrives with his army. He sends a messenger with an offer: "Leave now, and we will spare every life." Harald looks at the messenger with the calmness of a man who has never felt fear. "We will not leave." The messenger says, "Then what does Harald Hardrada ask for?" Harald smiles slowly and says, 7 feet of ground, or perhaps a little more. He is quite tall. The messenger turns and rides back to the English king, and the battle begins. Harald Hardrada charges into battle like a man who believes he cannot die. He swings his axe with both hands. He breaks through line after line. The English soldiers fall back in terror. For a moment, it looks like the Vikings will win again. Then an arrow finds him, then another, then a third. Harald Hardrada falls to the ground. 10,000 Viking warriors watch their king fall. The battle ends. The Vikings are defeated, and with him, the Viking age ends. 3 weeks later, a new invasion force lands in southern England. Not Vikings this time. The Normans, the descendants of Vikings, who had settled in France 150 years earlier, and they will conquer England completely and change its language, its culture, and its history forever. The Vikings were gone, but their children had won anyway. In just 300 years, these farmers from the frozen north explored 5 continents, founded cities that still exist today, and left their mark in the blood of millions of people across the world. Today, if you live in Iceland, England, Ireland, Normandy, or Russia, there is a real chance a Viking is somewhere in your family tree. The English language you are hearing right now contains hundreds of words that came directly from the Vikings. Knife, window, sky, husband, ugly, all Viking words. The days of the week: Tuesday is named after the Viking god Tyr, Wednesday after Odin, Thursday after Thor, Friday after Frigg. You say these words every single day without knowing a Viking put them there. They did not have guns. They did not have vast armies. They had wooden boats, iron axes, and an absolute refusal to be afraid. From a fjord in Scandinavia to the shores of North America, from 793 AD to right now, the Vikings were not just warriors, they were the last great adventurers of the ancient world, and somehow they are still everywhere. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe to Stickman Minds, because next time we are going even deeper. Thank you for watching.